So I did not have very much time to prepare for this, but it's okay because you and I are homies. We're heat punks at heart. So I think we'll just be able to rip this and it'll be perfectly fine off the cuff. Let's just start from the very beginning. I met you in Milwaukee, not Milwaukee. I met you in Brainerd, Wisconsin,
Minnesota.
Minnesota, one of the states over there by the Great Lakes. It's
Oh,
over.
there you are. There you are. You made an appearance.
Hey, there we go. So I met you for the first time over there in Brainerd for the mining conference that we put on last year in September. So it's coming up on a year. And when I first met you, you didn't know what you were going to do. You were kind of up in the air about the direction that you wanted to take your self-professed career. So tell us, before we get into like how you decided to get into the 3D printing side of Bitcoin mining, tell us like how you got involved in Bitcoin, like what kind of, how it came across your purview, and then we'll dive into the heat reuse stuff.
Sure, you got it. Yeah. So I've known about Bitcoin a long time, like 2011, long time. Like I had a friend in high school who was really into libertarian ideology and was kind of a gold bug, and he was in Ron Paul forums and Rush, the band forums, and there's a lot of overlap in all those things. And this topic of Bitcoin came up, and I didn't pay any mind to it because I was like, I don't have any money, so whatever. And it also, there was that attitude of, the first one's never going to make it. It's the MySpace, whatever. But 17-year-old me had other things on my mind, so put it out of mind. Didn't think anything of it. Forward to 2013, Silk Road shut down. I remember seeing that news story. That was my next Bitcoin thing. I was like, oh, that's still around, eh? 2014 is when I actually first thought about it, and then didn't come back into it until 2017 when I was done with school and had a grown-up job and could throw some money around at things that people think are questionable.
Yeah. Couldn't start speculatively gambling at that point until 2017.
Basically, yeah.
It's
my biggest regret, and I tell this to every single person ever, is not that I didn't buy Bitcoin when I found out about it. It was that I just didn't learn anything else about it. I didn't bother to read or learn anything. And it's like, what a hindrance, because it was there. You just had to dig for it.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because you talk about like the MySpace aspect, like the first one on the scene. It's like, had you have done a little bit of research at the time, you would have learned that Bitcoin was not the first digital money that was being created. We had eCash, we had DigiCash, like there was BitGold, there was all these different like pre-built, pre-technologies that kind of led the way, paved the road for Bitcoin to show up on the scene. You just didn't, do any research, just kind of threw it out of your mind. And I get it, because, in 2020, I did the exact same thing. I didn't get into Bitcoin until 22. It took me 2 years to like finally get Bitcoin on the radar enough to where I was like, I want to learn more about this.
Yeah. Where was I? So 2017 rolls around, and it hits me like a ton of bricks. This is like the thing that is occupying all my headspace. Like I'm thinking about it all the time. And of course, you come for number, go up, and then you dig a little deeper, and then you get your 80% drawdown or whatever it was in January 2018, and then it didn't go anywhere. The thought, the idea, the concepts, they didn't leave my mind. Like, just because it wasn't $20,000, which sounds funny now, but just because it's not $20,000 doesn't mean it's not any more useful than it was before. So I basically, this was just I'm a technical guy, so I like to know how things work. So I learned how it worked. Got burnt on shit coins, as one does. Sometimes you got to learn lessons the hard way, and that's fine. It's fine. No regrets. So that was kind of just steady progression of learning about Bitcoin since then. And I've listened to all the podcasts, I've watched the videos, I've, I went to a conference in like 2022 2002. That was the first one I went to.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Bitcoin day in Sioux Falls. They had like a touring thing
Yeah, they're
that
a
they
good
were
one.
doing. Yeah, it was a hoot. Like, and I've been to things before. I have a lot of different interests, and there's something to be said about being in a space where everybody's got the very specific knowledge you do, because you get to spawn these conversations that wouldn't show up anywhere else, because you don't need to provide all this background. You don't need to go like, oh, in 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto
Yeah,
started
yeah.
Bitcoin.
It's harkening back for me to the HeatPunk conference that we had in February, which was just absolutely phenomenal. But you don't have to have this conversation of, oh, look at this Bitcoin miner that produces heat. Guess what it can be used for? It's like everybody's already on that page. It's the conversations that spawn from that of like, well, how can we repurpose that heat? What are the different types of software and firmware that we can use to like regulate and advance what we're trying to do here? And it was really cool to sit in on those conversations. So I hear exactly what you're saying. What I'm kind of curious about though is, everybody does this. We all hear about Bitcoin and then we kind of ignore Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin comes back into our lives and we're like, oh, we should pay more attention to it. And through that journey of paying more attention, there's always that one idea that kind of flips the switch for you. So I'm curious, Andy, what was that thing like 2017 to 2020? What was that thing, that idea that kind of flipped that switch for you, lit the spark, and sent you like headfirst down the rabbit hole?
Hmm. Well, so I've always been kind of interested in money. Like, so my full name, I share a namesake with Andrew Jackson. So even as a little kid, you see your name on a dollar bill, like it connects you to it a little bit, even if it has nothing to do with it. But so I've always been interested in money. I've always been interested in computers, and bringing those two things together seemed extremely natural. So and just I think so I people say it's like once you understand the difficulty adjustment, then you really really get it. But like that didn't feel like the flip for me, because like I had a belief in it before I understood those things too. So I'm not doing a good job answering your question, but
Take your time, Andy. It's fine.
the what was the switch that flipped? I think just seeing that I can be in charge of my money. Like, I can be fully responsible for it. I am the one, because like immediately cold storage was like, that's what you did.
Yeah.
I know now everything's a little different, but at the time it was like, if you don't have it in cold storage, you're getting burned. Like, exchanges
Well,
go down all the time.
it's still a
So
thing. Like paper Bitcoin summer might be here, but at the end of the day, like cold storage is the way. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that the whole idea of taking responsibility, taking ownership and responsibility of not only your money, but where you put your time, which, we all love to talk about the immutability. We like to talk about the supply cap of Bitcoin, but like the most valuable, most scarce resource that we have as human beings is arguably time. And when we trading our time for something that, is infinitely inflated, is constantly controlled by third parties, then what are you trading your time for? What are you trading your life force in essence for? So like I completely see where you're going with this, and how that responsibility sparks the interest and kind of brings the whole entire puzzle together. You got all these little different pieces of the puzzle, and then that one thing of like responsibility ties it all together, and you're like, all right, this is something that you need to pay more attention to.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jack Mahler said it best when he says, "Don't what was something like." Don't trade your time for what another man can create out of nothing, or something like that.
Yes,
A little bit more elegant
absolutely.
than that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, none of us can be as elegant as Jack Mahler's. He does his videos in an empty closet because he's all in on Bitcoin. Come on. So you sent me this intro, and this intro that you sent me, there's something at the bottom of it that I freaking love. And this is an idea or an ideology or just like a way of living that I I have lived since I was like 14 years old. And you said at the very end, make stuff, break stuff, put it back together. This, I think, is super like, this is the thesis. This is the whole of what we do as heat punks. We are tinkerers, we're DIYers, we're literally fafoing this thing through and through. And so for you having this mechanically engineering background, I think Bitcoin makes a lot of sense. But then you dive into this world of hash rate heating and how you can apply hash rate heating to a business, to building a career out of this. So I'm kind of curious, why 3D printing? You know, when did you make that connection between the two? I know that you got into 3D printing, building in 2015, but I want to kind of hear like what made that connection for you.
And I love to tell the story too, but it's pretty simple. But yeah, I've been in 3D printing for 10 years. You know, I built my first printer 2015, like you said. And there's a lot of parallels between the 3D printing community and Bitcoin that I think we should talk about. We can talk about that later. But the moment where I said like, oh my gosh, these things run at basically the same temperatures. So I have like a room in my basement that had my miners, and I live in North Dakota, so it gets cold. It's cold here, like no exaggeration. It's cold here. And I had my miners in the basement, and I also had my 3D printers in there because, of course, it's the warmest room in the house. So I was messing around with Brains OS, and I'm looking at the thing. There's the set target temp, and I'm like, huh, it's at 70 degrees C, 80 degrees C. And then I look to my left, and I've seen my printer printing at what? The desert's 75 degrees C. So I'm like, oh, these things, there's something here. And this was in 2021. When I first started getting into mining, I didn't get into mining until 2021. So it took until then. But at the time, I was like, this probably isn't something that could, you know, be a business, because just given the nature of how the mining industry is, and thankfully rapidly changing. But what with the basically monopolies we have on the equipment, like I just knew it wasn't like going to be I didn't think it was going to be a thing that could be more than just like a cool article on Hackaday, which was really the goal at the time. I haven't said anything to them or anything, but we'll see about that. But that was what my attitude at the time was. And I had my plate full of a lot of different things just in general. It's been a wild 5 years, to say the least. It was just a thing. I was like, well, when I get time, I'll come back to it. And then, but I better hurry because someone else is going to do it. And then put it away, stowed that memory away. And then 2022, where we met in Brainerd, I'm looking for a new direction in my life in general, just because, so much stuff has happened. It wasn't not good stuff either. And it renewed that thought that it could be more, or that it could be something still, or rather that I just need to do this because it's cool. Like, just build stuff because it's cool. That's enough. Like, that's all it really needs to be. But then the more I thought about it, and then the more I got involved with the HeatPunk guys and seeing what all these guys are doing. I think Schnitzel stuff with Nakamoto heating was the first thing I saw where I was like, whoa, someone's doing something with this heat. And the more and more I thought about it, the more I was like, I bet this could be something. Like, I missed a part with that, because 3D printers have also come such a long way in this 10 years that I've been in this space. I made a tweet about it the other day because I was digging through my stuff, and I have like a part cooling fan that I modified with a torch lighter because it just didn't fit right. And like kids these days are never going to know the joys of having to do something like that with their printers that just work immediately. You drop $1,000 on a printer and it works. You drop $500 on a printer now and it just works. So the feasibility of print farms in general became something that I think is really going to go somewhere now, because you have these extremely user-friendly devices. And so it's not a big deal if you're running hundreds of them anymore. And then once you get to that scale, especially since their business model isn't unlike Bitcoin mining in that if those printers aren't running, you're not making money. Miners aren't running, you ain't making money. So it really is this beautiful convergence for me that these two things can intertwine so well, and that they're two things that I'm so, I love these things. They're part of who I am,
Yeah, they light a fire underneath that analytical engineering mind that you have. Because to me, the last thing I need is another hobby, and so I've been very reluctant to get into 3D printing for that reason alone, because I can barely keep up with the stuff that I'm doing right now. So I mean, hearing your story, watching you kind of progress, because I remember, like I said, I remember Brainerd. I remember you not knowing what you wanted to do. And it felt like 6 months later, you're like, yeah, I'm doing this 3D printing thing. I started an LLC and I'm going to start making heat plates for 3D printers. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. And, progressed to today, here you are. And I'm kind of curious about like where the story has progressed to today. So maybe we could talk about that first, or if you'd like to, we can talk about the convergences between Bitcoin mining and 3D printing. Whichever one you want to take first.
Well, yeah, let's talk about what's front of mind right now. So where we're at right now, where I'm at right now, I've got a prototype. I've got a working prototype, which I left upstairs because that's where I do my work. But I've got a working prototype from an S9 hashboard, and I'm not going to get into the super specifics of it, but basically it's it's a fancy heatsink for the hashboard. And the biggest question of the whole thing was like, can you run mining chips and just cool them ambiently without throwing air over them? And you can. And what's nice about that is that there's a lot of other applications you can put that to. But yeah, so I've got the first prototype proof of concept that's done. It works. It's reliable. It holds temperature extremely well. And so having done that, I've started putting together the first, like, this is the prototype I'm going to cart around to the shows, the get-togethers, and be like, hey, this is where things are going, guys. So I'm going to make a slightly fancier prototype that can handle that kind of travel and stuff, and get the systems communicating between each other. Because the first proof of concept, the control boards aren't talking to each other yet. So you got to start one, then you got to go start the other one thing. But like, that's trivial compared to all the other work that needs to be done. That's extremely trivial.
It's all done in software, as long as you know
it's
what
all
you're
software.
doing.
You can't even hold it. So that's where that's sitting right now. For that, I am doing a bunch of thermal simulations too, to kind of optimize the material usage for this prototype, so I can get a better idea of like what geometries work best for keeping this thing at a reasonable temperature without big swings or without letting it get too hot. So that's where the prototype is sitting. I do have another, like, I had a real big piece of news here, and I was cleared to share it. The 256 Foundation, who, they do all sorts of cool stuff with the emergence of open source mining, and they're doing great things over there.
Yes.
They were gifted, donated, pledged. They got 250,000 chips from Block, or they're getting 250,000 chips from Block, and they have pledged 25,000 of those chips to Proof of Print, which should be sufficient for our first production run. So once this prototype is going, I can start bringing people on board to help make the real one to get it produced. So I'm hoping sometime next year that we can have something that's ready for longevity testing.
Okay, so from that standpoint, instead of repurposing the old hashboards from like the S9s, the S19s, you know, what's miners, you're going to build your own boards with your own chips from the block chip production line. Are these
Yep.
real chips or are they individual chips?
They're on a reel. They're on a reel. There's no data sheets yet, but those are coming, I'm
Uh-huh.
told.
So this is something that you could build into a manufacturing process to where you could just you build the actual computer board, the board that they sit on, and you could just have a machine that sits there and solders them onto the board.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think they would take too kindly to someone showing up with a sandwich baggie of ASIC chips that they just yanked off of FNC.
Definitely not. Well, I mean, I'm harkening back to like the whole BitAxe project, you know, like this is
Yeah.
something where they're literally desoldering these chips from boards and then putting them onto their own custom boards that they've been making, and they're getting bigger and bigger. So, what does that process look like for you? Are you starting to design the actual board that will sit under the heat plate of the 3D printer, or are you still working on that?
So I need to do, so my expertise is in the thermal management side of things. Once it, like, I do know some electrical things, but like once we get to that point, I'm gonna need to bring on somebody else who knows circuit board design a lot better than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, here's an interesting question, because none of this is free, none of it's cheap, none of it's just like, you know, it doesn't just fall in your lap. Uh how are you doing this, like, and still continuing to like pay your bills?
I can only do this because of Bitcoin. So it, I, being a long-term hodler, you know, I've just been squirreling it away. It's what you, it's the, a rainy day fund doesn't sound like the right thing, but it's like it's there. It's what you intend to live on at some point. And I was just getting into a point in my life where I was like, why am I even putting this money away if I'm not gonna like use it when I need it? Like I got to the point where the opportunity cost of this concept and this whole thing was too big to ignore. And it's like, what, like I said, why even stack it if you're not gonna use it productively?
Mm-hmm.
So my my mom passed away at the beginning of the year, and she worked and squirreled away a ton of money, and then got sick and died. And I didn't want that to be me, and I wasn't thriving in my previous role working for somebody else, and I've always known that I wanted to do something on my own at some point. Like that's just kind of my personality. And that was, the pieces lined up. The bull market, the new advances in open source mining technology, the proliferation of 3D print farms more broadly, like all these pieces are just falling into place. And I was like, you're an idiot if you don't do this. And
Mm-hmm.
I ran it by basically everybody in my life, as one does. And they were all in agreement. They're like, yeah, you need to do this.
Mm-hmm. So, man, like it can be one of the most daunting things to go out and start a business, a company, doing something that you think, you know, you got this great idea, you think it's going to be great, but then there's that pressure or that stress of like, you know, you don't know if it's going to be feasible until you actually do it. You have to build the thing and see if it works. So how are you managing that kind of mental the mental gymnastics of like, this is this really exciting thing that I'm doing and I think it's going to go someplace, but then also knowing like, if it doesn't and you fail, you kind of have to start over from square one.
Um, well, we don't think about those things. So no. So I figure it's one of those things where I figure, even if it doesn't like go anywhere, or like if I can't like make money off of it, it's like it's still a really cool thing. And like even just from a personal satisfaction standpoint, there's something to be said about that. But I think something like this is unique enough and outlandish enough that it would get the attention of someone else, and I would be able to do something else cool.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so
I'm
that's
not trying to put that out there. I think this is a
no, no,
great
no, no. I know it's
idea.
fine. No, absolutely. I mean, it's a thing you got to consider. Like you're on your own. You might fail, but like, what is failure? Like, is failure like I starve? Because I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or is failure
Failure
like I have to go and get a regular job again? Like I
failure is
don't.
just an opportunity to learn something else. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I
It's a perspective thing. Like, what's
mhm.
success?
Yeah.
Success is different things to different people. So it's just like I feel like I'm succeeding right now. Truly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a great person. I've really loved hanging out with you. And I think this idea has legs from like the pleb perspective. Like I don't run numbers. I don't look at spreadsheets. I'm not a chart boy. I literally go, that's a great idea. Let's try it. Let's see if it works. You know, like I built my heater in my house, not based on like, oh, this is how much money I can make off of it versus how much I'm spending on my heater. It's like, well, that's a really cool idea. I want a Bitcoin miner to heat my house. Let's just fucking do it. I don't think I've ROI'd. I don't know because I don't pay attention to that. It doesn't matter to me. So from my perspective, I think this is a really cool idea. And all these, like, this is where I see this connection. There's so many Bitcoiners who are like, I'm 3D printing stuff to build my Bitcoin mining farm. You know, I'm 3D printing shrouds, I'm 3D printing stands, I'm doing all this crazy stuff to make Bitcoin mining possible in my home environment. Like the idea of like using a 3D printer that utilizes Bitcoin mining in the process of 3D printing to 3D print stuff that helps the Bitcoin mining process. Like it's this like really cool, like circular effect that I think is just badass. And I'm glad someone's doing it, Andy. I really am.
I mean, like it's freedom. 3D printing is it is a liberation of some sense. It's such a mesmerizing. I have spent so many hours just staring at the printer operating. I've been exposed to so many microplastics, but it's so hypnotizing. Just be like, oh my gosh, this thing is it's just making something right in front of me, and then you get this thing that's like super dimensionally accurate and it's functional. It's like what? I
Yeah.
would totally download a car. I would totally download a car. We'll just say that.
So how far are you, do you think, from having like a 3D printer that is out of the box a Bitcoin miner? What do you think that project timeline is?
Are you talking like from a production standpoint or
Like
like just
I
ad
wanna
printer?
buy a 3D printer, and I want one that specifically mines Bitcoin while it's 3D printing.
I think we're a little ways out from that.
Yeah.
So my business intention with this company isn't necessarily to manufacture 3D printers. Could happen, but uh, ideally I would only concern myself with the heated bed that is actually doing the mining,
Mhm.
since that's where all the work's at. Like printers are pretty commodity hardware for the most part these days. So I think it would be a matter of either manufacturing them or licensing them, depending on how the pieces play out. There's a lot of things that are still down the road that they can be addressed then. But
Okay, so the idea is not to build a 3D printer with a Bitcoin mining heat plate. It's to build heat plates that can be swapped in and out of other 3D printers.
well, it is to build a 3D printer that mines Bitcoin, but in conjunction with another company that makes 3D printers.
Okay.
So I would sell them a plate, and then they can install it on their thing, and there can be a cross collaboration, or whatever you want to call it, of
Got you. Do
printer
you
manufacturer and proof of print.
do you even need to do that collaboration, or is this something where you could build different boards for different 3D printers? I know 3D printers are not ubiquitous, like they're all different.
It wouldn't quite be so plug and play because it does require more computing resources than what 3D printers are typically equipped with at the moment.
I got you.
They both run, they both have a control board that runs a firmware, and depending on what printer you're running, some of them do it without getting too technical about it. Some of them kind of offload the heavy lifting to a Linux distro, basically the same way that the miner control board does. Like it's a stripped back Linux. It does one thing, but some of them are kind of lower level than that, and they operate. Yeah, so it's there's too much variability, and then they'd be like, here's this thing, you guys go. It's one of those things where like there will need to be considerations to be made around
I
it.
got you. I got you. You got different firmwares, different softwares speaking to the hardware. So you can't just build one or 5 that works with, these, like it has too much variability.
It might get to that point. It's not there at the moment, but
Got you.
not to say it won't be in the future.
Uh-huh. So what's the, like, because you have your own chips, like you're getting these 25,000 chips from Block, you can really kind of like tailor make the power supply like to work with whatever whatever printer's being run. What are the power requirements? Like, I know that I assume it's on 110, but like what's your plan on how you plan to set that up? Because obviously you can't just shove, 100 chips on this board to make it the most efficient as possible.
Well, and yeah, you wouldn't want to shove as many chips as possible necessarily on the board. You would only want as many as it takes to heat the thing.
Got you.
Just from a product optimization cost standpoint. So what was the question? Sorry.
So just power requirements. Like,
power requirement. That's
yeah.
what it was. Yeah. So a 3D print bed will pull like 200 watts tops, something like that. And then another kind of serendipity, a lot of 3D printer heat beds run at 12 volts already. So like,
okay,
for those not in the know, at least for amp miners, because that's what I have experience with is Bitmain machines. The hashboards actually get 12 volts. Like that is the input voltage. That's what an APW 3 plus power supply puts out. Yeah. So like they're basically identical.
Yeah, I mean, I could go with my APW 12 that I've got modified. I can go down to 12 volts. It runs at 14, but I can run it down at 12 volts. So 12 volts is like almost the standard for 110.
Yep. So it's that part's not a big deal.
Okay. So let's roll it back. I want to talk a little bit about some of, as we start to wrap up here, I want to talk about a little of like the convergences between Bitcoin mining and 3D printing.
Sure. So the biggest overlap and part of what I like, there's a big ethos that I really resonate with is the open source nature of both things. That the only reason like consumer 3D printing didn't become like a thing, or prosumer or whatever you want to call it, the only reason like those desktop machines didn't become a bigger thing sooner was because Stratasys and 3D Systems, which were the two original 3D printer companies, had patents on technologies, and you couldn't sell something similar. Like you couldn't undercut it. And they clamped on those patents for a very long time. I don't remember exactly which patent it was specifically that expired with Stratasys, but it expired in like the late 2000s, like 2010, 11, something like that, 10, 11, 12. Mm-hmm. And that opened the floodgates for what the RepRap movement, which is still a big thing. It's open source printers printing printers was kind of the ethos behind the RepRap project. And it's amazing how much got done and still continues to be done just open source. Like that, it's so important. Open source tools to lay down groundwork for things are so important and so under talked about. I think more broadly, societally speaking, we don't really talk about intellectual property more broadly speaking. Mm-hmm. I'm great at parties, as you can imagine. There is that alignment. Bitcoin being open source, anybody can look at the code, anybody can mess with it, and anybody can just learn from the way it is. And that's huge. Like, that's like,
well, what's
that's part of what makes it so great.
What for me, I think open source, the open source nature of Bitcoin is the killer application for what we're trying to do with it, because of the fact that like you said, like anybody can look at it, anybody can tinker with it. Like if you have an idea and you think Bitcoin can be better off because of your idea, all you have to do is build it, test it, and get buy-in from other people, and then that thing starts to steamroll. It's just like the BitAxe movement in general. I mean, like, you look at something, this random dude, Scott, had an idea for software that could, or code that could do this thing, and he put it out, he built one, and all of a sudden, 2 years later, we have this BitAxe movement where people are building 8-chip, 10-chip, 13-chip BitAxes. That wouldn't have been able to be done without that open source functionality. And to your other point, the fact that 3D printing didn't take off, didn't proliferate the way that it could have because it was closed source. I mean, without the ability for millions, hundreds of thousands of people to look at the code, to play with the technology, to fuck around and find out, like, it doesn't proliferate, it doesn't grow, it gets built inside of a vacuum and nobody knows about it. They don't have the ability to tinker with it unless you're ballsy enough to go out and dismantle the code in a way that, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a coder, so I don't know if I'm like even saying this properly, but dismantle that code and rebuild it from the ground up.
Basically, be it code or hardware, either way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think this is really cool how, because of these convergences, because of these unique events that have taken place over the last 5 to 8 years, you now have the ability to tinker, fuck around, play with it, and build a company based off of this fucking around and finding out.
Make it, break it, put it back together.
I love it. So, open source. This is, I want to ask you this question before we finalize this episode. Open source is something that a lot of these foundations are building and giving grants based on. The fact that the technology that you're building is completely open source, people can play with it, they can use it, they can build companies out of it, etc., so on and so forth. Have you thought about like applying for grants from, I know you got the 256 grant for the chips, but have you thought about grants from like Matt Odell's company or some of the other ones that do open source funding?
I need to investigate it a little further. So I have wrestled with this a lot, this idea of where does my product sit in that ecosystem? Because if you look at all the BitAxe licenses, like, it's you're supposed to post what you change. Like, you're supposed to also keep its derivatives open source.
Right.
So I've struggled with this, like, but I still want to make, a return on this. I'd like this to pay off. I want this effort to do something more broadly than just be cool. I mean, that would be great too. Wouldn't cry if that's all that happened, but I'd like the chance of it to do something. So, and I'm not a lawyer, and I need to speak to a lawyer more about this, but my current intention right now with how I'm going to proceed with proof of print is that anything related to the mining side of things, so the design of the hashboard itself, the control board, anything like I said, anything related to mining, that's going to stay open source.
Mm-hmm.
The proprietary portion of this is just the concept of the melding of the taking that heat. Like, you can patent a process. And
yeah.
And like I said, not a lawyer. I'm not sure where it's all going to land, but that's the piece that I intend to protect.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a patent pending for this. Then, like I said, this was not a decision I wrestled with easily, but
right.
I pinged the HeatPunks group, and they were all like, "Yeah, that sounds reasonable." Because if you don't patent these things, if you don't file these things, somebody else can do it, and then they can sue you.
Well, and so, I think we all agree that, like, we're trying to build businesses, and the purpose of those businesses is to fund our lifestyle. And while that's not a charity, it's not a, like, I just want to do this for the magnanimity or whatever of being like a great person. It's like, no, I'm trying to build a business so that I can provide a lifestyle for me and my family. That makes sense. I think that you can, you're talking about building software, you're talking about, being able to make these computers communicate with one another. Like, that's an open source process that could be done, and there's probably funding out there for you to help you build that process so that you can actually pay people to come in and do the software side of things. So if I were you, I would look into it. Definitely talk with a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving any advice here. But from my pleb perspective, I think that would be a reasonable way to take it.
Yeah, and I have been working with my state's business bureaus of sorts, and they've been helpful in getting some of the more local things, because I have had a mixed relationship with my state growing up, but I've come to really really love North Dakota, and there's a lot of opportunity here, like
Yeah.
a ton of opportunity here, and I feel so blessed that I can be here in the place I need to be. Like, heck, there's a Lulzbot, the 3D printer manufacturer, is here in town. 3D Fuel, the filament manufacturer, is here in town, and that's how I got that custom filament made. So like, and then the state just kind of throws money at things because they want people to stay here and make businesses and develop the state and contribute and diversify the economy, so we're not just Venezuela of the north.
Yeah.
Because kind of they have a little bit of a trend of that, and I'm not fond of that, but different discussion for a different day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, keep up the work, man. I'm really looking forward to the next HeatPunk Summit to see
It's
the
gonna be so much
progress
fun.
that you've made on this. Like, it'd be really cool to see you to see a 3D printer heated with the heat plate heated with the Bitcoin mining operation, and like printing shrouds for the HeatPunks. That would be fucking awesome. I mean, to be honest, if you got that set up, I'll start ordering my shrouds and stuff through you, just because I know it's part of the Bitcoin ecosystem.
I intend to have a prototype to have on display at the next HeatPunk Summit.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Are you going to be in Mining Disrupt in November?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Okay, it doesn't sound like anybody. I haven't heard anybody say anything about it. And I'm just like,
Yeah, I don't know. I know that somebody from the Bitcoin mining world team will be there. Nobody has said anything to me about that, and I need like 2 or 3 months, because you probably don't know this, but I am actually building a non-Bitcoin related company. I'm building a construction company, and it's been taking up all of my time. And so, like, in order for me to go to these events, like, I need like 3 months advance notice so that I can be like, hey, I'm taking this week off. I'm not scheduling anything for that week. So, but we'll see. Well, we still got a couple months before it happens, but I'm definitely going to be in Denver for the next HeatPunk Summit. If I have to pay for myself to go out there, I'm going to do it. So that was just,
you can't miss that one.
it was too much signal, man. It was
it was so good.
It was too good. It was too good. So, all right, Andy, last couple things before we finally close this one out. I wish we had more time today, but duty calls. Anyways, where can people find you? I know that, proofofprint.com is on there, but where else can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I signed up for Twitter, not X, at real_PizzAndy, PizzAndy. That's probably the best way. I'm also on Nostr. I think I'm just PizzAndyPrimal.net. I don't know if you could post my NPub in there if you're.
I mean, I could just find you at PizzAndy at primal.net. That's a easier way to do it. But if I find your NPub, I'll throw that in there too.
All right, that works. Yeah. So those two. I'm in Telegram, real.PizzAndy. If anybody wants to yell obscenities at me in private, that's fine too.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, and anybody's wants to know more, just reach out, because I love talking about it.
I'll have everything down there. It's an exciting thing, and I'm sure that there's somebody listening who's like, I 3D print stuff. That would be awesome. So last question, and if you watched the podcast before, this is coming. Everybody that's new on the show gets asked the same question, and so I'm curious to hear what your answer is. Andy, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
Bitcoin is my freedom. Like, I'm gonna try not to tear up here from it, but it really is my freedom. Like, it is the thing that let me do the thing I've always wanted to do, which, yeah, that's really what it all comes down to. And like you kind of said earlier, like we Bitcoin so we can trade our money for time, not so we can trade our time for money.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Bitcoin is the ability to trade your money or your time for money, or your Bitcoin is the ability to trade money for time, not time for money. That's fucking awesome. I love it,
Yeah.
man. I love it, man. Well, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show today. I appreciate what you're doing in the space. I look forward to seeing you progress. I look forward to seeing these printers just kind of proliferate in the Bitcoin mining industry. You're doing great work, so don't stop.
Thanks, Trev. Plenty left to do, so no
All right.
shortage of work.
Hell yeah, we will definitely share out as much as we can and try to help you proliferate more and more. But with that, guys, this has been the Build a Mind podcast. I think we're on episode 85, so we're getting there up to 100. If you have any ideas on what I should do for episode 100, it's kind of a monumental moment for the Build a Mind podcast. Let me know. But until then, like, subscribe, share this out. Let's help get Andy as much exposure as possible. We appreciate you guys for watching, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Build Mind podcast. Peace out, guys.